Hey everyone, and welcome back to Explicitly Pro-Life. I'm Kristan Hawkins, your host. And today, as you probably have guessed, we have a special guest, Lila Rose.
Hey guys.
We are in LA at Live Action's office. We were doing some filming today. Hopefully you'll see the video soon.
It was amazing.
So,
Epic.
yes. So we have a few things we should talk about. We could talk, I think, for a long time. We came up with a lot of things.
I want to ask Kristan questions about her pregnancies and births.
So Lila's going to just take over Explicitly Pro-Life and be your host.
It's going to get really explicit.
Yes, that's right. It's perfect. So, so we were here today, and let's talk about business first. So we were here shooting a video for the National Pro-Life Summit, Saturday, January 25th in Washington, D.C. It's exciting because we're partnering together, Live Action, Students for Life, Heritage Action, Heritage Foundation, Alliance Defending Freedom. It's going to be historic because we're all kind of merging and uniting around this one event. So are you excited for it?
I'm super excited. I hope I can actually be there because I will have just delivered my baby.
Yeah. You can do it. I did a speech 3 weeks postpartum. You
just
got
drag
this.
My teeny.
That's right. And you get the baby on. You strap on the baby, and then you just give the speech, and the baby will actually, because the baby will be so used to your voice, the baby will sleep during your speech.
Okay. Well, maybe it will work. But there will be some very awesome people there. We're gonna have awesome speakers. It's going to be 3,000 people.
That's right.
I think that are coming, and then I'm really excited. My team is super excited. I think it's going to be a huge deal. So we're really excited to do it.
Yeah, this has been something that I've been wanting to do for a number of years. I remember during the Obamacare fight in 2009, 2010, I loved how all the different pro-life organizations and pro-family organizations actually came together. We were all working together, and everyone was like super excited, and then it just like ended. I was like, hey, let's keep the party going. And so that's actually where this idea came from, was like, why don't we like train people of all ages to what they can do to end abortion in their community. And so we've been doing the Students for Life conference for well over 20 years. Since we launched Students for Life full time, it's been 12 years. So we have all this momentum. We're getting 2,500 young people out every year, but we're leaving a lot on the table by not opening it up to the rest of the pro-life movement. And so,
I think it's amazing that you guys have been doing it 12 years and that you've gotten consistently so many thousands of students. It's super amazing. So I'm excited that it's open now, even beyond. Young adults can come. Students obviously will come. There'll probably be thousands of students there. But I mean, I remember going to my first march and just being like, okay, this is so inspiring and beautiful, but now what?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, don't just march for life and just like, post the Facebook or the Instagram post like, I marched, but it's like what you do when you go home, it actually matters the most. So doing the conference and then actually I think we're having 35 workshops or whatever.
It's crazy.
Which is like, sounds like overkill, but it's actually not, because they're all different kinds of tracks, like bioethics.
Nothing's repeating. You're actually going to have to bring friends if you want to cover all the content.
Totally.
And take notes.
Totally. So I think it's going to be like you march for life, and then you go and you get your input.
Your marching orders.
That's exactly, and there you go.
Yeah, and stay the extra freaking day. Everyone's like, oh, I don't know, I'm really tired after the March for Life. You spent all this time and money getting to Washington, D.C. to march in the cold, rain, and probably sleet and snow. Stay the extra day and get your marching orders, because that's what matters. Like, and I'm so glad you feel good about yourself when you're at the March for Life and you know you're not alone. But like, what matters is what you do when you get home.
Totally.
I've gotten frustrated a couple times because I've met with student pro-life groups and I'm like, what did you guys do last semester? And they're like, fundraised. And I'm like, great, what'd you fundraise for? The March for Life. I'm like,
then what did you do?
Then what did you do the rest of the year? Well, start planning to fundraise next year. I'm like, no, what counts is what you do after.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what's so cool, that we're able to partner with you guys. You have all your expertise in media.
Well, and we have we launched this ambassadors program, and we haven't even promoted it, and we have like 4,000 people who've signed up. That's awesome. And they want to do stuff. Like they want to do stuff in their hometowns. They want to do stuff in their communities. And so I think the National Pro-Life Summit will be so exciting for them, because they can come too. Hopefully many of them will be able to come and like learn tools and skills and get ideas for what they can do when they go home as well.
That's right. That's exactly right. So make sure you register at prolifesummit.org and register soon, because
do we have a promo code?
We don't yet.
Okay.
We'll
There
probably
might be a promo code.
Okay.
Okay.
We did a promo code if you signed up before Labor Day. You got $10 off and a free T-shirt.
But it's actually a really good price.
Yeah, it's like $55 for students, and that covers like your breakfast and lunch.
That includes lunch and breakfast?
Yeah.
That's actually a really good deal because if you didn't come
I'm
and you
losing money on this deal.
And you bought that by yourself, you would probably end up spending $50 anyways.
Yeah, no, and if you really want to pay full price, it's about $250 a person. So there you go. Not
good
that
deal.
I'm counting numbers.
So
or
that
anything.
is a discount.
It's a huge discount.
Yeah.
Because Kristan's fundraising to make up for the rest of the money you're paying.
Kristan is paying for you to go to the National Play Summit.
Our donors are generously doing it. Live Action's supporting it.
Yeah, supporting it.
ADF supporting it. Heritage is supporting it. And then the rest, we're going to pray that the rest of the pro-life movement says, yes, this is awesome. I want to support it too. So, all right. So we were here. We're filming a video for that. You are pregnant, having a boy.
Correct.
I'm so excited because I found out I gave Lila the Pro-Life Gen onesie that we have, and she said it was the first boy-themed thing she got today.
Can I show it? It's very cute.
I don't know. Do you have it over there?
Anyways, we don't have a baby registry yet, and we need one. And so I was looking at items, and I met this new mom friend that I have in LA, and she has this thing called the SNOO. And the SNOO is this like very fancy high-tech baby bassinet that simulates the movements of the womb. And it's supposed to be super safe and all this stuff. So I went on the website and it's $1,200, but it was 35% off today, so it was $800.
Only $800.
Only $800. So I sent my husband the link and I'm like, should we spring for this? Because my friend swears by it. She's like, the SNOO has changed my life and all this stuff. So my husband's like, our little boy needs to learn how to live in the real world and not be in the womb anymore. So why would we do a womb simulator? And then I went to Amazon and I was reading the reviews and they're like, oh, this made my baby seasick. Maybe it was throwing up. So we basically saved $800.
Slap that baby on the butt and say, welcome to the real world. You're out of the womb now, baby.
That's exactly the kind of mom I'm going to be, Kristan.
I have
time
3
to
boys.
be tough.
Time to tough it up. Suck it up. That's like my like.
Actually, I should. You have 3 boys. So what's your best advice for a boy mom?
My best advice for a boy mom.
What do you think about circumcision?
Well,
we don't have to go there. We can cut that.
I'm pro circumcision, I guess you can say, but I never really thought about. Now it's like this big thing. You're supposed to have like this deep conversation about it. It was just like, yeah, I had a boy. He's being circumcised, right? Like I never. But now it's like this big thing. Like it wasn't when Gunnar was born. It wasn't like a thing. Best, I don't know. Boys are just, they're a lot of fun, but they're also kind of gross. So just be prepared.
So what does that mean? Like
lots, like butt jokes are real popular.
But not when they're
farting.
Babies. They're just babies.
Oh, I'm just thinking of boys.
Later on.
Babies are all the same. It doesn't matter if they're boy or girl. I mean, there's differences. We know there's differences. But babies are the same. But the boys are fun. They're loud. They're rambunctious. They like to wrestle and.
I feel good about it because I had 5 brothers growing up.
Oh yeah, so you're like totally.
Yeah,
I didn't have any brothers.
Being a mom, that's a whole new dimension.
It was new for me because I only have one sister. All of my cousins were girls, so like I never was actually around like little boys, and so I was like really nervous about it. But it's not a big deal. It kind of comes naturally, and the rest you kind of just make up or Google it. Yeah, but once you get over birth is I think the first birth is the
hard part.
Are you nervous about like the birth?
I mean, the thing that freaks me out is needles. So honestly, the idea of getting an epidural sounds scarier than the idea of labor and delivery.
That. Yeah, that was actually the scariest thing for me was the epidural because you're like, it's a freaking huge deal. Yeah. However, I will say, when you're in that much pain, you're like, go for it. Yeah. Bring it on. And then there was like no more pain. It was fantastic. Yeah. But my husband totally passed out during the epidural administration. And he actually passed out because they have a smaller needle to numb the incision where the epidural goes in. And so that's a small, normal needle. Yeah. That's where he passed. He didn't pass. He couldn't even get to like the long needle part. So
yeah, I mean needles and even like getting my blood taken, I'm not a fan.
Oh yeah.
Like I had my blood taken for the baby, or the typical test.
Yeah.
What got me through it was this poor little 2-year-old was having to get her blood taken, and just knowing that she was being this brave 2-year-old doing it. I'm like, if she can do this, I can do this.
It's everybody.
But I mean I don't know. Every woman's different, and I hear like the birth plan goes out the window, but I'm just going to go in there and we're going to just gonna make
Yeah,
it
my
happen.
first birth was, it was funny because I was due with Gunnar like 2 weeks after the March for Life. And of course I was
Did
March.
you go?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, were you able to fly or did you drive?
No, I was living in DC at the time. So I was marching around the March for Life, my bullhorn, the signs. My mom was chasing me around, telling me to stop walking so fast. There's always pictures of me like uber pregnant. Then we had our conference next day and my OBGYN, Dr. Brashowski, who's a former abortionist, was speaking. Yeah. He was like, you have to sit down. My ankles were like bowling balls. So then I ended up being induced a couple days later because I kind of overdid it. But that was easy. It was the second one where
that was your second baby.
That was my first baby. That was Gunnar.
Wow.
But then the second baby, I wasn't living in DC, so I found like a pro-life doctor. That's like the hardest thing. I don't know if you've had this problem.
It is hard. No, it's been hard to find a pro-life doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, like I went to AppLog's website and I found a doctor. AppLog is the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs, and they have like a directory, so you should be able to find pro-life doctors. But he was like in a practice with non-pro-life doctors, and so then I had to like part of the rule going to practice was you had to see all the other doctors, and they all knew like that I had one child with CF. So every time I met with them, they're like, "Don't you want to do prenatal testing? Are you going to do prenatal testing?" So I'm like, "No." That
was my experience. The first doctor I went to, she, basically said she was pro-life, but then she went through all the options for prenatal testing, which wouldn't have been a huge deal because some of that's mandated by the state of California to give the options. But then I was like, well, my husband and I were pro-life, like no matter what this baby may or may not have, like we're loving and having this baby. And then she was like, well, there are options. I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, termination. And I was like, why are we even talking about this? It was just so offensive and so disturbing. And then, after doing more research, it's like, oh, actually this doctor does do abortions in the case of if the baby has a disability, which it's just, that baby deserves even more love if that baby has a disability, not less. Yeah. So anyways, we found another doctor, but it's hard. It's hard to find. Especially
being here in LA. I mean,
yeah, in California. But I think a lot of doctors are pro-life. They don't want to do abortions themselves.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just tricky because when you have all this state testing, that the state's offering it, right? And the state has their database of babies with disabilities. I mean, the state actually keeps that information about your
newborn
family.
Infant Screen Program.
Yeah, and so I think the pressure is really on for families because instead of like, how can we help you and support you? It's like, here's all this testing you can do to weed out imperfections, basically. And then you're just always offered a termination as if it's like some, what do you want for breakfast that morning? Which termination? What do you want to do? It's the way it's treated is so.
Yeah. No, it's the crazy. Second question after they ask you how you're going to pay. When I was pregnant with my second son, how are you going to pay your insurance? Okay. So are you going to do any prenatal? Like that was the second question. I was like, no, I'm not. But I remember
it's offensive.
Yeah. No, we went to this cystic fibrosis. So we were at that CF team with Gunnar, and I was just when I was pregnant with Bear, my second son. They didn't know. And the geneticist. So all these CF teams have geneticists on the staff. And the geneticist came in and she was like, oh, I wanted to know if you need any of my services. I was like, oh, what is it that you do here? Like, what? She's like, well, if you decide to continue and grow your family, I can really help you make sure that, we can screen your embryos. I've never wanted to hit somebody so bad in my entire life. She never came back in the room. And I think they had like a note for the rest of the time we were at the CF community there in Minnesota, never to have the geneticist come in to see us because it was.
Well, it's just heartbreaking. Like my brother and his wife, they have beautiful kids, and they found out their son was one of their kids had a missing hand in the womb. I mean, they can see it on the 20-week scan or whatever. And beautiful, wonderful little boy. But after that, they were asked multiple times if they wanted to kill him. And it was just so offensive and disturbing to them. It's like, this boy is beautiful, he's perfect, and we don't care if he's missing an arm. Like, it doesn't matter. He's a human being, he's our child, he's our son. And now like we all, in love with him. He's the happiest little guy. But to think that little boys like him are being aborted just like that because medical professionals are saying, oh, would you like to terminate? And that's the recommendation that they give.
So one thing you just kind of mentioned about, you think that a lot of these OBGYNs are probably pro-life, but they're kind of scared. I think, right now we're in California. The legislature has just passed SB 24.
The legislature is crazy. It's a super pro-abortion majority. So
we've been fighting this bill for 3 years. It's finally passed. Last year, the pro-choice governor here vetoed it. Governor Newsom, the new governor, has promised to sign a law. And for those of you who don't know and haven't been following Students' Life's blog or Live Action News, SB 24, it's going to mandate that the abortion pill, RU46, is available in all the 4-year public institutions, all 4-year schools. So it's going to basically turn all public college campuses into abortion facilities.
And what that actually means, I mean, at an abortion facility, technically, what they would like to argue about themselves is they're medically equipped. They have ultrasounds. They're not used for prenatal care. They're used for abortions. But a college campus, a health center, maybe they give the flu shot. Maybe they give pregnancy tests. Maybe they provide advice. Maybe they do some basic screenings for something, but they're not there to provide care for women. So just from the woman's perspective, what SB 24 is going to do is girls are going to be coming in, picking up pills. Those health centers are going to be forced to give out these abortion pills, which force miscarriage. I mean, they're inducing labor. Painful, and they're going into their dorms. Sometimes they're co-ed bathrooms. Sometimes they're in a triple. I mean, when I was in a college, it was like I was in a triple for 3 years. And they're tiny. And you're going to be laboring and delivering your baby, your dead baby, in your dorm. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of risk. There's a potential for an ectopic pregnancy. If there is an ectopic pregnancy, then you can't deliver that baby the way that you would a non-ectopic, a uterine pregnancy. If that's the case, then the RU46 is not going to abort your baby effectively. You need to go in and have surgical removal, and they can't detect that. The health centers are not equipped to detect ectopic pregnancies, so you're going to have that added risk where these girls could have bleeding or hemorrhaging. So the risk to the girls, I mean, just on a psychological and physical level, is so huge. And then, of course, you're killing human beings. Like the universities where you're supposed to learn, and they're supposed to be the place to educate the next generation, is killing the next generation. So on every level, it is astounding that this bill has even made it this far. Yeah. And it's horrific to think that the governor is likely going to sign it.
And I think it, what they want to do is they want to replicate this across the country. Legislators in Massachusetts have already started. We actually just formed a task force of students of, states that we know are going to be likely to pick this up, because the bill sponsors already said, like, this is supposed to be a model. And what really is interesting, and I don't think the pro-life movement is really prepared for this, is we realize that, there's a graying of the abortion industry going on. The abortion industry knows that they can't, it's hard to convince somebody who's gone to medical school and has $250,000 in debt learning how to save lives to be an abortionist. That's like a hard ask. So this is going to help relieve that problem for them, because it basically, you don't have to make more abortions, right? You just pass out some pills and make sure you check to make sure that there's the uterus is empty. So I think this is something that the abortion industry is looking forward to, of kind of changing their whole model and moving away from the brick and mortar abortion facilities, which you've been in, I've been in, are not places any woman ever wants to go to. They're filthy, they're disgusting, they're depressing. So it kind of changes their whole model and makes abortion more accessible. I mean, they were actually arguing that, you had to pass this bill because it was an issue of access, that was taking 45 minutes by public transportation for women to get to the abortion facility, even though in California, there's an abortion facility from 5 to 7 miles from every campus, like $5 Uber rides. But it was an issue of access. But then I was reading about the bill, I was preparing for this NPR interview. The California Department of Finance came out and said they're kind of making it seem like these abortions are going to be free. They're not even going to be free. It's going to cost the girl $500 to have this abortion on campus. Yet they're trying to make it seem like this issue of access. And the other thing that they're not really talking about in this bill is that they're saying, it's privately funded, but for the first 4 years. Yeah. There's no mention. They were saying how it was going to go to be basically student fees and taxpayers were going to fund it, but they took that out of the bill. So there's like no mention. It's like this mystery of like how it's going to be funded. The bill sponsor at NPR was like telling the NPR reporter, well, we're going to continue to fundraise for it. And I was like, is that in writing anywhere? Like, we know this is going to end up being taxpayer funded. Student fees on campus are going to be, this is going to be a huge conscience issue, right? It's a conscience issue, not only for the healthcare workers who are in the health centers, who now their jobs fundamentally been transformed, but now you're going to have students paying for it, taxpayers paying for it. So, I mean, there's been some bad actors who are kind of spearheading this as well up there in Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, and I went to UCLA, and I remember being a student, and the idea that my money as a student, my tuition money, and then of course our money as just taxpayers, is going to be funding dorm abortions, bathroom abortions for young girls.
Toilet bowl abortions is the phrase we're using, and it actually works really well with the pro-choice students on campus. Even people who are for abortion are like, yeah, I don't think she should have an abortion.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you're forcing miscarriages.
Yeah.
One of the things we've been looking at is who's behind a lot of this and who has to profit, because there are drug companies that make money off of RU46. And then there are actors, there are actual abortionists that are pushing this legislation. And one of them actually ran into on Twitter recently, because Dr. Daniel Grossman up at the Bixby Center in San Francisco at UCSF.
And they are just from context, the Bixby Center at UCSF, they're kind of like the leading abortion school in the country. They export their people to all these medical schools across the country. So all bad things usually originate from there. So.
Right, they're training the next generation. They're trying to train the next generation of abortionists. And this abortionist in particular, I mean, he's obsessed with home abortions. He wants to sell as many abortion pills online, and he loves SB24 because he wants universities to become basically abortion centers, and he wants more students to be having bathroom abortions, dorm abortions. And he also has recently called for the deplatforming of live action. We've been doing investigative reporting on what he's doing, on the ties to the drug industry, and on the fact that he is pushing RU46 on college students, this abortion drug. And so what he's done recently is Facebook has this fact checking. You may have heard of this, but Facebook recently,
I've heard a little bit about it.
Well, they've announced this, like, we're going to stop false news or fake news on our platform. And so they basically got their third-party fact checker, Health Feedback, to hire or to get Dr. Grossman, this abortionist, and this other
who's obsessed with promoting abortion, by the way.
He's on the board of NARAL. I mean, the guy's an activist through and through, and an abortionist, and an abortion trainer. And he and his abortion friend, Dr. Robin Schickler, another abortionist and another trainer, another abortion activist, they wrote this article saying that Live Action, myself, were misleading people and giving false news, or if it's fake news, by saying that abortion is not a medical treatment, that abortion is not medically necessary, and we have thousands. There are thousands of doctors that say abortions are not medically necessary because you don't have to intentionally and directly kill the baby to save the life of the mom. So it's just crazy to see the collusion. You have big tech, right? You have Facebook, and you have this epicenter in San Francisco of these powerful, in Silicon Valley, these powerful forces that are very pro-abortion and that are using abortionists to fact-check pro-lifers. And then you have the university system in California, which they've even actually spoken out against SB 24.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
the first year they came out, UC and CSU school systems came out against it. It was called SB 320 at the time. Now they're neutral, but we actually think kind of behind the scenes they're probably advocating against this.
Right. I mean, I think from their perspective, it's practical. It's like, oh my gosh, are we ready to deal with all these miscarriages,
and
forced
hemorrhaging
miscarriages
women
in our dorms? But nonetheless, the UC system is very pro-abortion. And then you have the state of California, which is run by the former likes of then Attorney General Kamala Harris and now our senator, who is literally trying to put in jail two investigative reporters that we know and love, David Daleiden and Sandra Merritt, because of their courageous investigative reporting. Now A.G. Becerra is doing the same thing. Then you have the super pro-abortion legislators in California that are passing this insane bill to get dorm abortions. So California is really this hotbed of abortion activism, but it's also why I think it's so important, the work you're doing, Kristan, here, and Students for Life, the work Live Action's doing, to take back the state, because we can't just let them run amok in this beautiful state. And and when they are challenged, when the truth, whether it's they're challenged because a group of your students goes and sits down and lobbies in some of these offices in Sacramento, or they're challenged online on social media that abortion is not medically necessary, or SB 24 is harmful to women, then I think it does make a big difference. I mean, last year, Jerry Brown did not sign The bill.
Who is an admittedly pro-choice governor. Right. And when he vetoed it in his letter, he actually cited one of our big talking points that we were making of there's an abortion facility 5 to 7 miles of our college campus. It's unnecessary. Like we had a very pro-choice sounding talking point. And that's what he said. So it does make a difference. And that's why you have to come to the National Pro-Life Summit. Because when you get active in your community and lobby and go and, we've been taking toilet bowls to college campuses throughout California, this stuff makes a difference. Like you can, even in a state like California, especially in a state like California, you can make a difference. It's not all lost. While what's happening now with SB 24 is bad news, and they want to export it across the country, we held it off for 3 years here. And we know how to fight this now in every state across the country. We know how to talk to pro-choice young people about this. We know how to talk to administrations about it. So there is good news coming, even when there's bad.
Yeah, and what we find is that people actually are much more willing to agree with you on the pro-life matter or on these extreme cases, like abortionists trying to shut down pro-lifers online. I mean, I have friends who aren't pro-life, and I talk to them about this, and they're like, that's crazy. Yeah. Or just normal everyday people who are like, why is Facebook using abortionists as fact checkers with pro-lifers? Or people who find out about SB 24, they're like, wait a minute, why is a university handing out abortion pills that will make forced miscarriages in college dorms? Like, I don't even want a natural miscarriage. I mean, that's tragic, and a spontaneous miscarriage, that's tragic enough. But a forced miscarriage in a college dorm. So when normal people hear about this stuff, they are appalled. And that's the job of us our pro-life movement in California, is to actually just educate people. Because you educate people, whether they're left or right, Democrat, Republican, whatever, many of them become appalled when they learn what this extremism,
truth is ultimately on our side, right? And you're right. You point out the extremism. Truth is ultimately on our side. And even with everything that you guys are enduring right now with live action and the tech censorship, think about how many more people have heard about live action and your mission and our movement, our pro-life movement, because they're watching Fox News, they're reading an article, and anytime, there's always some good that comes out of this terrible crap that you're enduring right now.
Well, and it's just like the more you speak out, the more you'll get attacked. The more you should speak out.
Yeah, and we band together too. I think it was pretty funny when you guys got banned from Pinterest. We just went, and I had somebody for an entire day just take all of your old graphics and post them on our Pinterest.
That's awesome.
I was like,
you're still up and running?
Oh, yeah, we're still up and running. Yeah, so I mean, like when they came out and said that was fake news about the doctor said it's never medically necessary, I just kept posting it all day on my Twitter. Abortion is never medically necessary, and so we just did a podcast with Dr. Bashowski, who we talked about.
And he explains why abortion is not a medical treatment.
Exactly. So I think it actually sometimes this bad stuff actually helps us because.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the jury's still out. Facebook has removed the violations from our account, so they use this false fact check by these two abortionists to basically penalize our Facebook accounts. We have over 3 million people following us on Facebook. And they threaten to completely shut down our reach so that when we post something, nobody can see it. We can't do any advertisements. And so we still haven't gotten this issue resolved. So, I mean, I agree with you. Any opportunity we can make make lemonade out of any lemon, but they have a lot of power. And that's why I think we can't. Our goal at Live Action, and I know your goal too, Kristan, at Students for Life, is you have to keep going and persevering. And no matter the attack or the confrontation, push through it and try to find other ways too. Because let's say big tech continues to do crazy, stupid stuff. We will take it to the streets. We will educate in on the street corners. We will educate in the classrooms or in the homes, wherever we need to go. Because at the end of the day, we know that when people learn facts about abortion, what crazy legislators and attorney generals are doing in California, when they learn about the humanity of the child in the womb, minds are changed. People change.
And we should end the podcast on that note. So, hey.
There's hope.
There's hope. Thanks, Lila, for taking the time
Kristan,
today.
Of course.
And for partnering with us at the National Pro-Life Summit.
I'm excited.
It's going to be a great day. I hope you're there on January 25th in D.C. with us. Don't forget to register at prolifesummit.org. Bye, guys.